Hi, I'm Andy and welcome to my channel about crypto. In today's video, I want to talk about, well, quite an obvious subject really, the recent crash and the ongoing downtrend in the crypto market. As always, if you find those videos helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and also check out the community section where I put questions and polls about, well, how can I make this content better and more relevant for you. Well, let's get to the Bitcoin chart and have a look at what's going on currently. So of course, the main cause for concern at the moment is this downtrend, this slight dip we've experienced in the last couple of days. That was largely triggered by release of minutes from the Fed meeting. Essentially, it looks like Fed is going to hike up interest rates to combat the inflation. And of course, the narrative around Bitcoin recently, well, in the last year and a half, has been that Bitcoin essentially is a hedge against inflation. As the dollar is losing value, a lot of institutions and private investors are putting money into Bitcoin as well, essentially to protect themselves from the loss of value of the dollar. But if the government is going to introduce measures to protect the dollar, to protect it from losing value, well, that makes Bitcoin somewhat less attractive. Or at least the narrative changes slightly. And trading crypto and trading in general is largely based on sentiments and current narratives. So of course, this shift is not really welcomed. But let's be honest, if we look at the chart, this is not a huge dip in terms of percentages. The reason why it's a bit scary is because, well, the Bitcoin was already trading quite low. But if we look at what actually happened here, I mean, we're looking at something like 12%. That's not really a particularly large dip if we look at it in its own right. Of course, if we zoom out, the dip is overall, or the downtrend is much bigger, and that so far took us down around, well, let's call it 40% from the all-time high. So naturally, a lot of people are concerned, and well, there's no way of escaping the fact that we've been clearly on a downtrend since early November, so for solid 2 months now. But what does it mean for the market cycle overall? Well, we are still very firmly in extreme fear territory, and to be honest, I expected that we will stay in fear or extreme fear for a while. Personally, I expect that we may continue on this downtrend or sideways movement for quite a while actually. I don't think it's a bad thing for the cycle overall. As the cycles are getting longer, I think essentially this is just part of every cycle. I mean, we experienced this in 2017 as well. We experienced this in every Bitcoin cycle before. But what's different this time is that in the past, we would have those blow-off tops and V-shaped recoveries, at least most of the time. While now, if we zoom out, you can see that we have those much more rounded tops and bottoms, rather just a single peak and a relatively quick V-shaped recovery, something more akin to what we had here. Basically, this was more similar to previous market cycles, while essentially from the beginning of last year, from the beginning of 2021, we experienced those much more rounded peaks and bottoms. So this can indicate that we will have to wait a little bit for the recovery. And also, of course, it's difficult not to compare the current situation to what we had in the summer. The drop right now was much slower, and we didn't go down quite as low. First of all, we were way below 20-week SMA, Bitcoin's bull market support band, when we were trading here. And also, that dip was actually more like around 55-56%. And at the moment we are sitting on around 40%. So it's not quite as bad. And the most optimistic scenario, in my opinion, is that we will see a bounce back quite soon. Because if you look at this top was much longer than the one we had here. So you could speculate that this bottom will be shorter. So essentially we had longer top and bottom here, shorter top here, so shorter bottom here as well. And as we had 3 quite clear sort of bottom out moments during this phase, and 4 peaks. In this phase we had only a couple of peaks, so far a couple of bottoms. Well, you could speculate that from this point onwards we may still trend sideways for a little bit and then just go up. That's the most optimistic scenario. If this was going to happen, I would expect it within the next week or so. If we don't see signs of recovery within the next week or so, I would expect that this phase may be quite long. Generally, once we dip below the 20-week SMA, we have to be prepared to spend around 3 months in that space. That's what happened in the past. So it's not unreasonable to expect that it may take us until potentially March before we'll break out above that. On the plus side, 20-week SMA actually started coming down now, and it will continue coming down. So it's quite a slow movement, but well, we still need to break out way above 50k, which of course, well, that's quite a long way to go. So in short, I expect and hope that we'll hold 40k level, the level we held here. That's our major support at the moment, and a bounce from that level would be quite a bullish sign. So far we held above 40k during this dip here. We are holding it so far today. Let's see how it goes. We're getting very, very close to 40k, but as long as we keep bouncing off 40k, I think that's a very bullish sign. If we break below it, that wouldn't be ideal. I think that would indicate much longer bearish phase. I mean, by much longer, I mean like 3-4 months. I'm not talking here about a year or longer bear market. But essentially, if we break below it, then we would hope to hold 30k level. If we cannot hold 30k level, then all bets are off. But for now, let's focus on 40k. Failing that, 30k. But I think there is a pretty good chance that we will hold 40k as support. And if that indeed happens, well, what we are waiting for is essentially a trend reversal. And it's much easier to see it if we switch to weekly candles and then we change to Heikin-Ashi candles, which just use slightly different formula to calculate prices. Because as you can see here, rather than with normal candles, we have those, well, basically they are changing from red to green all the time. With Heikin-Ashi candles, you can see that they tend to stay either green or red for much longer periods of time. And there are quite clear trends visible here. Of course, a single candle, either red or green, may be just a fake out. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. But essentially, until we see at least one green candle on this chart, there is no way that we will see trend reversal, longer term trend reversal. Ideally, we would like to see a couple of green candles, and then we can probably quite comfortably say that, yeah, we're good. Or at least a very big single green candle. So that's one way of looking at charts and trying to establish whether the trend is actually changing or not. At the moment, we are in a quite clear downtrend, so we just have to wait to break out from it. So if you've been in the crypto space for, well, at least since spring or early last year, you already survived that summer lull, that quite nasty drop here. I think it was possibly the worst or one of the worst drops in terms of percentage over the number of days in the history of Bitcoin. So if you survive that and you survive the summer, well, this is, at least at the moment, certainly no worse than the summer. In fact, so far we're looking better at the moment than we did in the summer. And of course, we put a new all-time high, so there's no question that spring was the end of the cycle. And then there was just a bull trap somewhere here, and now we are actually in a continued downtrend. Now we put a new all-time high in November. What I'm trying to say is that there were some really strong indicators in the spring that the market was getting overheated. And you could potentially argue, although pretty much no one saw it, myself including, or no one wanted to believe it, that this was we were way ahead of the cycle and this will be the cycle top. But there were indicators that were showing us that essentially this potentially could be the end of the market cycle. We haven't seen this in November or October, November. If we look at something like Bitcoin logarithmic regression bands, you can see that we were touching that band, getting the red band in spring. We were nowhere near it in autumn, in October, November. And it would be completely new behavior for Bitcoin to reach the market cycle peak without getting to the red band. So, and that's just one of many indicators we can look at, which essentially, and they all tell us the same story, that this is not the end of the market cycle, that November wasn't the end of the market cycle, wasn't the market peak. So I still strongly believe that we are nowhere near the end of this market cycle. I think it will extend well into this year, possibly early 2023. The main question is how long the current bearish phase is going to be. Optimistic scenario is that we will have a breakout within the next week or so. More realistic is that it may take another 4 to 8 weeks. My strategy at the moment is to put aside as much cash as I can, and as soon as we see clear change of trend, put all of it in gaming alts, couple of other projects which I either mentioned before, I'll be talking them in the next couple of days or weeks. Now, I did invest this week in quite a few gaming altcoins. Of course, since then prices either stayed roughly the same or they dipped a bit. I'm not particularly worried about it because they were still really good price points. So, I mean, I bought them at a massive discount comparing to where they were towards the end of last year. But in the current situation, well, if Bitcoin continues down, and most importantly, if it breaks below 40K, we can expect a lot of fear in the market and a lot of alts will probably bleed. So that's essentially what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting to see that confirmation that we can hold 40K, and I'm waiting for that trend reversal. But when that happens, you have to be ready to act. You have to have your list of altcoins ready. You have to have the funds ready, because when the Bitcoin changes trend, it will probably take just a few days before the whole market changes. Or, I mean, maybe even a day or so. Stuff will start picking up very, very quickly. So be prepared for it. Okay, so just to sum up this video, I think mid to long term prognosis is still very good. I think we will hit new all-time highs. Well, most coins will hit new all-time highs later this year. I think 2022, potentially early 2023 will be still amazing for crypto and NFT space overall. But there is no getting away from the fact that we are currently in a downtrend. And at the moment, I would just be careful and sit on the sidelines when it comes to crypto and wait until there's clear trend reversal. Unless you see some coins which you are happy to get in at the current price point, then go for it. But I would still try to leave some of the funds on the side, just in case if we dip a bit more. As an alternative strategy, I'm looking into NFTs and hoping that NFTs market will pick up a bit more. So far, NFT market has been holding quite well comparing to the cryptocurrency market. So there is an indication that, well, as Ether is getting cheaper, gas fees at the moment are not too bad. And if there is not much happening in crypto, especially in the smaller cap coins and gaming coins, then I think there's pretty good chance that a lot of the volume will be shifting towards NFTs. So these are my views. I think overall there's nothing to worry about. Those downtrends can be a bit scary, and of course no one really likes them, but well, they're just part of dealing with cryptocurrencies, and this space is very volatile and you just have to get used to it. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, please put them in the comment section. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.